Welcome back to part 2 of the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate, SAA-C03, Practice Test Series. In this session, we'll continue working through more practice questions, breaking down each answer step by step, and highlighting the key concepts you need to master for the exam. By the end, you'll gain deeper insights into AWS services and the confidence to tackle complex scenarios with ease. AWS SAA-C03, good to know. Exam content: there are two types of questions on the exam: multiple choice, has one correct response and three incorrect responses; multiple response, has two or more correct responses. Exam questions. There are 65 questions in AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate, 50 65th scored question, 15 65ths unscored question. Good thing there was no negative marking. All reference document links are available in my Medium post. You'll find the link in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Code with Ankit Sahu for more AWS practice tests and tech tutorials. You can also follow us on Facebook and Medium for additional content and updates. Thanks for watching, and let's dive right in to keep building your AWS success story. Question 1. A retail company has developed a REST API which is deployed in an auto-scaling group behind an application load balancer. The REST API stores the user data in Amazon DynamoDB, and any static content, such as images, are served via Amazon Simple Storage Service, Amazon S3. On analyzing the usage trends, it is found that 90% of the read requests are for commonly accessed data across all users. As a solutions architect, which of the following would you suggest as the most efficient solution to improve the application performance? Option A. Enable Amazon DynamoDB Accelerator, DAX, for Amazon DynamoDB and Elasticsearch MEMC8 for Amazon S3. Option B. Enable Elasticsearch Redis for DynamoDB and Elasticsearch MEMC8 for Amazon S3. Option C. Enable Amazon DynamoDB Accelerator, DAX, for Amazon DynamoDB and Amazon CloudFront for Amazon S3. Option D. Enable Elasticsearch Redis for DynamoDB and Amazon CloudFront for Amazon S3. Correct answer. Option C. Enable Amazon DynamoDB Accelerator, DAX, for Amazon DynamoDB and Amazon CloudFront for Amazon S3. Explanation: Amazon DynamoDB Accelerator, DAX, is a fully managed, highly available, in-memory cache for Amazon DynamoDB that delivers up to a 10x performance improvement from milliseconds to microseconds, even at millions of requests per second. Amazon DynamoDB Accelerator, DAX, is tightly integrated with Amazon DynamoDB. You simply provision a DAX cluster, use the DAX client SDK to point your existing Amazon DynamoDB API calls at the DAX cluster, and let DAX handle the rest. Because DAX is API compatible with Amazon DynamoDB, you don't have to make any functional application code changes. DAX is used to natively cache Amazon DynamoDB reads. Amazon CloudFront is a content delivery network, CDN, service that delivers static and dynamic web content, video streams, and APIs around the world, securely and at scale. By design, delivering data out of Amazon CloudFront can be more cost-effective than delivering it from S3 directly to your users. When a user requests content that you serve with CloudFront, their request is routed to a nearby edge location. If CloudFront has a cached copy of the requested file, CloudFront delivers it to the user, providing a fast, low-latency response. If the file they've requested isn't yet cached, CloudFront retrieves it from your origin, for example, the Amazon S3 bucket where you've stored your content. So, you can use Amazon CloudFront to improve application performance to serve static content from Amazon S3. Hence, enable Amazon DynamoDB Accelerator, DAX, for Amazon DynamoDB and Amazon CloudFront for Amazon S3 is the correct answer. References. Question 2. A gaming company is looking at improving the availability and performance of its global flagship application, which utilizes user datagram protocol and needs to support fast regional failover in case an AWS region goes down. The company wants to continue using its own custom domain name system, DNS, service. Which of the following AWS services represents the best solution for this use case? Option A. AWS Global Accelerator. Option B. Amazon Route 53. Option C. AWS Elastic Load Balancing, ELB. Option D. Amazon CloudFront. Correct answer. Option A. AWS Global Accelerator. Explanation: AWS Global Accelerator utilizes the Amazon Global Network, allowing you to improve the performance of your applications by lowering first byte latency, the round-trip time for a packet to go from a client to your endpoint and back again, and jitter, the variation of latency, and increasing throughput, the amount of time it takes to transfer data, as compared to the public internet. AWS Global Accelerator improves performance for a wide range of applications over TCP or UDP by proxying packets at the edge to applications running in one or more AWS regions. Global Accelerator is a good fit for non-HTTP use cases, such as gaming, UDP, IoT, MQTT, or Voice over IP, as well as for HTTP use cases that specifically require static IP addresses or deterministic, fast regional failover. Hence, AWS Global Accelerator is the correct answer. References. Question 3. A software engineering intern at an e-commerce company is documenting the process flow to provision Amazon EC2 instances via the Amazon EC2 API. These instances are to be used for an internal application that processes human resources payroll data. He wants to highlight those volume types that cannot be used as a boot volume. Can you help the intern by identifying those storage volume types that cannot be used as boot volumes while creating the instances? Select 2. Option A. Instance store. Option B. Provisioned IOPS solid state drive, IO1. Option C. Throughput optimized hard disk drive, ST1. Option D. General purpose solid state drive, GP2. Option E. Cold hard disk drive, SC1. Correct answer. Option C. Throughput optimized hard disk drive, ST1. Option E. Cold hard disk drive, SC1. Explanation: the Amazon EBS volume types fall into two categories: solid state drive, SSD, backed volumes optimized for transactional workloads involving frequent read/write operations with small I/O size, where the dominant performance attribute is IOPS. Hard disk drive, HDD, backed volumes optimized for large streaming workloads where throughput, measured in MIB/S, is a better performance measure than IOPS. Throughput optimized HDD, ST1, and cold HDD, SC1, volume types cannot be used as a boot volume, so these two options are correct. Hence below options are correct. Throughput optimized hard disk drive, ST1, cold hard disk drive, SC1. References. Question 4. A research group runs its flagship application on a fleet of Amazon EC2 instances for a specialized task that must deliver high random I/O performance. Each instance in the fleet would have access to a dataset that is replicated across the instances by the application itself. Because of the resilient application architecture, the specialized task would continue to be processed even if any instance goes down, as the underlying application would ensure the replacement instance has access to the required dataset. Which of the following options is the most cost-optimal and resource-efficient solution to build this fleet of Amazon EC2 instances? Option A. Use Amazon EC2 instances with access to Amazon S3-based storage. Option B. Use Amazon Elastic Block Store, Amazon EBS, based EC2 instances. Option C. Use Amazon EC2 instances with Amazon EFS mount points. Option D. Use Instance Store-based Amazon EC2 instances. Correct answer. Option D. Use Instance Store-based Amazon EC2 instances. Explanation: An instance store provides temporary block-level storage for your instance. This storage is located on disks that are physically attached to the host instance. Instance store is ideal for the temporary storage of information that changes frequently, such as buffers, caches, scratch data, and other temporary content, or for data that is replicated across a fleet of instances, such as a load-balanced pool of web servers. Instance store volumes are included as part of the instance's usage cost. As instance store-based volumes provide high random I/O performance at low cost, as the storage is part of the instance's usage cost, and the resilient architecture can adjust for the loss of any instance, therefore you should use instance store-based Amazon EC2 instances for this use case. Hence, use instance store-based Amazon EC2 instances is the correct answer. References. Question 5. The engineering team at a Spanish professional football club has built a notification system for its website using Amazon Simple Notification Service, Amazon SNS, notifications which are then handled by an AWS Lambda function for end-user delivery. During the off-season, the notification systems need to handle about 100 requests per second. During the peak football season, the rate touches about 5,000 requests per second, and it is noticed that a significant number of the notifications are not being delivered to the end users on the website. As a solutions architect, which of the following would you suggest as the best possible solution to this issue? Option A. The engineering team needs to provision more servers running the AWS Lambda service. Option B. Amazon SNS message deliveries to AWS Lambda have crossed the account concurrency quota for AWS Lambda, so the team needs to contact AWS support to raise the account limit. Option C. The engineering team needs to provision more servers running the Amazon SNS service. Option D. Amazon SNS has hit a scalability limit, so the team needs to contact AWS support to raise the account limit. Correct answer. Option B. Amazon SNS message deliveries to AWS Lambda have crossed the account concurrency quota for AWS Lambda, so the team needs to contact AWS support to raise the account limit. Explanation: Amazon Simple Notification Service, Amazon SNS, is a highly available, durable, secure, fully managed pub/sub messaging service that enables you to decouple microservices, distributed systems, and serverless applications. With AWS Lambda, you can run code without provisioning or managing servers. You pay only for the compute time that you consume. There's no charge when your code isn't running. AWS Lambda currently supports 1,000 concurrent executions per AWS account per region. If your Amazon SNS message deliveries to AWS Lambda contribute to crossing these concurrency quotas, your Amazon SNS message deliveries will be throttled. You need to contact AWS support to raise the account limit. Hence, Amazon SNS message deliveries to AWS Lambda have crossed the account concurrency quota for AWS Lambda, so the team needs to contact AWS support to raise the account limit is the correct answer. References. Question 6. A company manages a multi-tier social media application that runs on Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, Amazon EC2, instances behind an application load balancer. The instances run in an Amazon EC2 auto-scaling group across multiple availability zones, AZs, and use an Amazon Aurora database. As an AWS Certified Solutions Architect, Associate, you have been tasked to make the application more resilient to periodic spikes in request rates. Which of the following solutions would you recommend for the given use case? Select 2. Option A. Use AWS Shield. Option B. Use Amazon CloudFront distribution in front of the application load balancer. Option C. Use AWS Global Accelerator. Option D. Use Amazon Aurora Replica. Option E. Use AWS Direct Connect. Correct answer. Option B. Use Amazon CloudFront distribution in front of the application load balancer. Option D. Use Amazon Aurora Replica. Explanation: you can use Amazon Aurora replicas and Amazon CloudFront distribution to make the application more resilient to spikes in request rates. Use Amazon Aurora replica. Amazon Aurora replicas have two main purposes. You can issue queries to them to scale the read operations for your application. You typically do so by connecting to the reader endpoint of the cluster. That way, Aurora can spread the load for read-only connections across as many Aurora replicas as you have in the cluster. Amazon Aurora replicas also help to increase availability. If the writer instance in a cluster becomes unavailable, Aurora automatically promotes one of the reader instances to take its place as the new writer. Up to 15 Aurora replicas can be distributed across the availability zones, AZs, that a DB cluster spans within an AWS region. Use Amazon CloudFront distribution in front of the application load balancer. Amazon CloudFront is a fast content delivery network, CDN, service that securely delivers data, videos, applications, and APIs to customers globally with low latency, high transfer speeds, all within a developer-friendly environment. CloudFront points of presence, POPs, edge locations, make sure that popular content can be served quickly to your viewers. Amazon CloudFront also has regional edge caches that bring more of your content closer to your viewers, even when the content is not popular enough to stay at a POP, to help improve performance for that content. Amazon CloudFront offers an origin failover feature to help support your data resiliency needs. Amazon CloudFront is a global service that delivers your content through a worldwide network of data centers called edge locations or points of presence, POPs. If your content is not already cached in an edge location, Amazon CloudFront retrieves it from an origin that you've identified as the source for the definitive version of the content. Hence below options are correct. Use Amazon Aurora Replica. Use Amazon CloudFront distribution in front of the application load balancer. References. Question 7. A gaming company is developing a mobile game that streams score updates to a backend processor and then publishes results on a leaderboard. The company has hired you as an AWS certified solutions architect associate to design a solution that can handle major traffic spikes, process the mobile game updates in the order of receipt, and store the processed updates in a highly available database. The company wants to minimize the management overhead required to maintain the solution. Which of the following will you recommend to meet these requirements? Option A. Push score updates to an Amazon Simple Notification Service, Amazon SNS, topic. Subscribe an AWS Lambda function to this Amazon SNS topic to process the updates and then store these processed updates in a SQL database running on Amazon EC2 instance. Option B. Push score updates to Amazon Kinesis data streams, which uses an AWS Lambda function to process these updates and then store these processed updates in Amazon DynamoDB. Option C. Push score updates to Amazon Kinesis data streams, which uses a fleet of Amazon EC2 instances, with auto-scaling, to process the updates in Amazon Kinesis data streams and then store these processed updates in Amazon DynamoDB. Option D. Push score updates to an Amazon Simple Queue service, Amazon SQS, queue, which uses a fleet of Amazon EC2 instances, with auto-scaling, to process these updates in the Amazon SQS queue and then store these processed updates in an Amazon RDS MySQL database. Correct answer. Option B. push score updates to Amazon Kinesis data streams, which uses an AWS Lambda function to process these updates and then store these processed updates in Amazon DynamoDB. Explanation: to help ingest real-time data or streaming data at large scales, you can use Amazon Kinesis data streams, KDS. KDS can continuously capture gigabytes of data per second from hundreds of thousands of sources. The data collected is available in milliseconds, enabling real-time analytics. KDS provides ordering of records, as well as the ability to read and/or replay records in the same order to multiple Amazon Kinesis applications. AWS Lambda integrates natively with Kinesis data streams. The polling, checkpointing, and error handling complexities are abstracted when you use this native integration. The processed data can then be configured to be saved in Amazon DynamoDB. Hence, push score updates to Amazon Kinesis data streams, which uses an AWS Lambda function to process these updates and then store these processed updates in Amazon DynamoDB, is the correct answer. References. Question 8. The product team at a startup has figured out a market need to support both stateful and stateless client-server communications via the Application Programming Interface, APIs, developed using its platform. You have been hired by the startup as a solutions architect to build a solution to fulfill this market need using Amazon API Gateway. Which of the following would you identify as correct? Option A. Amazon API Gateway creates RESTful APIs that enable stateful client-server communication, and Amazon API Gateway also creates WebSocket APIs that adhere to the WebSocket protocol, which enables stateful, full-duplex communication between client and server. Option B. Amazon API Gateway creates RESTful APIs that enable stateless client-server communication, and Amazon API Gateway also creates WebSocket APIs that adhere to the WebSocket protocol, which enables stateful, full-duplex communication between client and server. Option C. Amazon API Gateway creates RESTful APIs that enable stateless client-server communication, and Amazon API Gateway also creates WebSocket APIs that adhere to the WebSocket protocol, which enables stateless, full-duplex communication between client and server. Option D. Amazon API Gateway creates RESTful APIs that enable stateful client-server communication, and Amazon API Gateway also creates WebSocket APIs that adhere to the WebSocket protocol, which enables stateless, full-duplex communication between client and server. Correct answer. Option B. Amazon API Gateway creates RESTful APIs that enable stateless client-server communication, and Amazon API Gateway also creates WebSocket APIs that adhere to the WebSocket protocol, which enables stateful, full-duplex communication between client and server. Explanation: Amazon API Gateway is a fully managed service that makes it easy for developers to create, publish, maintain, monitor, and secure APIs at any scale. APIs act as the front door for applications to access data, business logic, or functionality from your backend services. Using API Gateway, you can create RESTful APIs and WebSocket APIs that enable real-time two-way communication applications. Amazon API Gateway creates RESTful APIs that are HTTP-based. Enable stateless client-server communication. Implement standard HTTP methods such as GET, POST, PUT, patch, and delete. Amazon API Gateway creates WebSocket APIs that adhere to the WebSocket protocol, which enables stateful, full-duplex communication between client and server. Route incoming messages based on message content. Hence, Amazon API Gateway creates RESTful APIs that enable stateless client-server communication, and Amazon API Gateway also creates WebSocket APIs that adhere to the WebSocket protocol, which enables stateful, full-duplex communication between client and server is the correct answer. References. Question 9. An application is currently hosted on 4 Amazon EC2 instances, behind Application Load Balancer, deployed in a single availability zone, AZ. To maintain an acceptable level of end-user experience, The application needs at least 4 instances to be always available. As a solutions architect, which of the following would you recommend so that the application achieves high availability with minimum cost? Option A. Deploy the instances in 2 availability zones, AZs. Launch 4 instances in each availability zone, AZ. Option B. Deploy the instances in 1 availability zones. Launch 2 instances in the availability zone, AZ. Option C. Deploy the instances in 3 availability zones, AZs. Launch 2 instances in each availability zone, AZ. Option D. Deploy the instances in 2 availability zones, AZs. Launch 2 instances in each availability zone, AZ. Correct answer. Option C. Deploy the instances in 3 availability zones, AZs. Launch 2 instances in each availability zone, AZ. Explanation: the correct option is to deploy the instances in 3 availability zones, AZs, and launch 2 instances in each availability zone, AZ. Even if one of the AZs goes out of service, still we shall have 4 instances available and the application can maintain an acceptable level of end-user experience. Therefore, we can achieve high availability with just 6 instances in this case. Hence deploy the instances in 3 availability zones, AZs. Launch 2 instances in each availability zone, AZ, is the correct answer. Question 10. An e-commerce company operates multiple AWS accounts and has interconnected these accounts in a hub-and-spoke style using the AWS Transit Gateway. Amazon Virtual Private Cloud, Amazon VPCs, have been provisioned across these AWS accounts to facilitate network isolation. Which of the following solutions would reduce both the administrative overhead and the costs while providing shared access to services required by workloads in each of the VPCs? Option A. Build a shared services Amazon Virtual Private Cloud, Amazon VPC. Option B. Use fully meshed VPC peering connection. Option C. Use Transit VPC to reduce cost and share the resources across Amazon Virtual Private Cloud, Amazon VPCs. Option D. Use VPCs connected with AWS Direct Connect. Correct answer. Option A. Build a shared services Amazon Virtual Private Cloud, Amazon VPC. Explanation: consider an organization that has built a hub-and-spoke network with AWS Transit Gateway. VPCs have been provisioned into multiple AWS accounts, perhaps to facilitate network isolation or to enable delegated network administration. When deploying distributed architectures such as this, a popular approach is to build a shared services VPC, which provides access to services required by workloads in each of the VPCs. This might include directory services or VPC endpoints. Sharing resources from a central location instead of building them in each VPC may reduce administrative overhead and cost. Hence build a shared services Amazon Virtual Private Cloud, Amazon VPC, is the correct answer. References. Question 11. A company is looking at storing their less frequently accessed files on AWS that can be concurrently accessed by hundreds of Amazon EC2 instances. The company needs the most cost-effective file storage service that provides immediate access to data whenever needed. Which of the following options represents the best solution for the given requirements? Option A. Amazon Elastic Block Store, EBS. Option B. Amazon Elastic File System, EFS, Standard Storage Class. Option C. Amazon Elastic File System, EFS, Standard, IA Storage Class. Option D. Amazon S3 Standard Infrequent Access, S3 Standard IA, Storage Class. Correct answer. Option C. Amazon Elastic File System, EFS, Standard, IA storage class. Explanation: Amazon EFS is a file storage service for use with Amazon Compute, EC2, containers, serverless, and on-premises servers. Amazon EFS provides a file system interface, file system access semantics, such as strong consistency and file locking, and concurrently accessible storage for up to thousands of Amazon EC2 instances. The Amazon S3 standard, IA storage class reduces storage costs for files that are not accessed every day. It does this without sacrificing the high availability, high durability, elasticity, and POSIX file system access that Amazon EFS provides. AWS recommends standard IA storage if you need your full dataset to be readily accessible and want to automatically save on storage costs for files that are less frequently accessed. Hence, Amazon Elastic File System, EFS, standard, IA storage class is the correct answer. References. Question 12. A healthcare solutions company wants to run their applications on single-tenant hardware to meet regulatory guidelines. Which of the following is the most cost-effective way of isolating their Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, Amazon EC2, instances to a single tenant? Option A. On-demand instances. Option B. Dedicated hosts. Option C. Spot instances. Option D. Dedicated instances. Correct answer. Option D. Dedicated instances. Explanation: dedicated instances are Amazon EC2 instances that run in a virtual private cloud, VPC, on hardware that's dedicated to a single customer. Dedicated instances that belong to different AWS accounts are physically isolated at a hardware level, even if those accounts are linked to a single payer account. However, dedicated instances may share hardware with other instances from the same AWS account that are not dedicated instances. A dedicated host is also a physical server that's dedicated for your use. With a dedicated host, you have visibility and control over how instances are placed on the server. Hence, dedicated instances is the correct answer. References. Question 13. A financial services company has deployed its flagship application on Amazon EC2 instances. Since the application handles sensitive customer data, the security team at the company wants to ensure that any third-party secure sockets layer certificate, SSL certificate, SSL/transport layer security, TLS, certificates configured on Amazon EC2 instances via the AWS Certificate Manager, ACM, are renewed before their expiry date. The company has hired you as an AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate to build a solution that notifies the security team 30 days before the certificate expiration. The solution should require the least amount of scripting and maintenance effort. What will you recommend? Option A. Monitor the days to expiry Amazon CloudWatch metric for certificates created via ACM. Create a CloudWatch alarm to monitor such certificates based on the days to expiry metric and then trigger a custom action of notifying the security team. Option B. Leverage AWS config managed rule to check if any third-party SSL/TLS certificates imported into ACM are marked for expiration within 30 days. Configure the rule to trigger an Amazon SNS notification to the security team if any certificate expires within 30 days. Option C. Monitor the days to expiry Amazon CloudWatch metric for certificates imported into ACM. Create a CloudWatch alarm to monitor such certificates based on the days to expiry metric and then trigger a custom action of notifying the security team. Option D. Leverage AWS config managed rule to check if any SSL/TLS certificates created via ACM are marked for expiration within 30 days. Configure the rule to trigger an Amazon SNS notification to the security team if any certificate expires within 30 days. Correct answer. Option B. Leverage AWS config managed rule to check if any third-party SSL/TLS certificates imported into ACM are marked for expiration within 30 days. Configure the rule to trigger an Amazon SNS notification to the security team if any certificate expires within 30 days. Explanation: AWS Certificate Manager is a service that lets you easily provision, manage, and deploy public and private secure sockets layer/transport layer security, SSL/TLS, certificates for use with AWS services and your internal connected resources. SSL/TLS certificates are used to secure network communications and establish the identity of websites over the Internet as well as resources on private networks. AWS Config provides a detailed view of the configuration of AWS resources in your AWS account. This includes how the resources are related to one another and how they were configured in the past so that you can see how the configurations and relationships change over time. Hence, leverage AWS config managed rule to check if any third-party SSL/TLS certificates imported into ACM are marked for expiration within 30 days. Configure the rule to trigger an Amazon SNS notification to the security team if any certificate expires within 30 days is the correct answer. References. Question 14. A company wants to improve its gaming application by adding a leaderboard that uses a complex proprietary algorithm based on the participating users' performance metrics to identify the top users on a real-time basis. The technical requirements mandate high elasticity, low latency, and real-time processing to deliver customizable user data for the community of users. The leaderboard would be accessed by millions of users simultaneously. Which of the following options support the case for using Amazon Elasticsearch to meet the given requirements? Select 2. Option A. Use Amazon Elasticsearch to improve the performance of compute-intensive workloads. Option B. Use Amazon Elasticsearch to improve latency and throughput for write-heavy application workloads. Option C. Use Amazon Elasticsearch to run highly complex join queries. Option D. Use Amazon Elasticsearch to improve latency and throughput for read-heavy application workloads. Option E. Use Amazon Elasticsearch to improve the performance of extract transform load, ETL, workloads. Correct answer. Option A. Use Amazon Elasticsearch to improve the performance of compute-intensive workloads. Option D. Use Amazon Elasticsearch to improve latency and throughput for read-heavy application workloads. Explanation: Amazon Elasticsearch allows you to run in-memory data stores in the AWS cloud. Amazon Elasticsearch is a popular choice for real-time use cases like caching, session stores, gaming, geospatial services, real-time analytics, and queuing. Hence, below options are correct. Use Amazon Elasticsearch to improve latency and throughput for read-heavy application workloads. Use Amazon Elasticsearch to improve the performance of compute-intensive workloads. References. Question 15. A retail organization is moving some of its on-premises data to AWS Cloud. The DevOps team at the organization has set up an AWS-managed IPsec VPN connection between their remote on-premises network and their Amazon VPC over the Internet. Which of the following represents the correct configuration for the IPsec VPN connection? Option A. Create a virtual private gateway, VGW, on both the AWS side of the VPN as well as the on-premises side of the VPN. Option B. Create a virtual private gateway, VGW, on the on-premises side of the VPN and a customer gateway on the AWS side of the VPN. Option C. Create a virtual private gateway, VGW, on the AWS side of the VPN and a customer gateway on the on-premises side of the VPN. Option D. Create a customer gateway on both the AWS side of the VPN as well as the on-premises side of the VPN. Correct answer. Option C. Create a virtual private gateway, VGW, on the AWS side of the VPN and a customer gateway on the on-premises side of the VPN. Explanation: Amazon VPC provides the facility to create an IPsec VPN connection, also known as AWS site-to-site VPN, between remote customer networks and their Amazon VPC over the Internet. The following are the key concepts for a site-to-site VPN: virtual private gateway. A virtual private gateway, VGW, also known as a VPN gateway, is the endpoint on the AWS VPC side of your VPN connection. VPN connection, a secure connection between your on-premises equipment and your VPCs. VPN tunnel, an encrypted link where data can pass from the customer network to or from AWS. Customer gateway, an AWS resource that provides information to AWS about your customer gateway device. Customer gateway device, a physical device or software application on the customer side of the site-to-site VPN connection. Hence, create a virtual private gateway, VGW, on the AWS side of the VPN and a customer gateway on the on-premises side of the VPN is the correct answer. References. Question 16. An IT company hosts Windows-based applications on its on-premises data center. The company is looking at moving the business to the AWS cloud. The cloud solution should offer shared storage space that multiple applications can access without a need for replication. Also, the solution should integrate with the company's self-managed Active Directory domain. Which of the following solutions addresses these requirements with the minimal integration effort? Option A. Use Amazon Elastic File System, Amazon EFS, as a shared storage solution. Option B. Use File Gateway of AWS Storage Gateway to create a hybrid storage solution. Option C. Use Amazon FSx for Windows File Server as a shared storage solution. Option D. Use Amazon FSx for Lustre as a shared storage solution with millisecond latencies. Correct answer. Option C. Use Amazon FSx for Windows File Server as a shared storage solution. Explanation: Amazon FSx for Windows File Server provides fully managed, highly reliable, and scalable file storage that is accessible over the industry standard Server Message Block (SMB) protocol. It is built on Windows Server, delivering a wide range of administrative features such as user quotas, end-user file restore, and Microsoft Active Directory (AD) integration. It offers single AZ and multi-AZ deployment options, fully managed backups, and encryption of data at rest and in transit. You can optimize cost and performance for your workload needs with SSD and HDD storage options, and you can scale storage and change the throughput performance of your file system at any time. With Amazon FSx, you get highly available and durable file storage starting from $0.013 per GB month. Data deduplication enables you to optimize costs even further by removing redundant data. You can increase your file system storage and scale throughput capacity at any time, making it easy to respond to changing business needs. There are no upfront costs or licensing fees. Hence, use Amazon FSx for Windows File Server as a shared storage solution is the correct answer. References. Question 17. A healthcare company has deployed its web application on Amazon Elastic Container Service, Amazon ECS, container instances running behind an application load balancer. The website slows down when the traffic spikes and the website availability is also reduced. The development team has configured Amazon CloudWatch alarms to receive notifications whenever there is an availability constraint so the team can scale out resources. The company wants an automated solution to respond to such events. Which of the following addresses the given use case? Option A. Configure AWS auto-scaling to scale out the Amazon ECS cluster when the application load balancer's CPU utilization rises above a threshold. Option B. Configure AWS auto-scaling to scale out the Amazon ECS cluster when the ECS service's CPU utilization rises above a threshold. Option C. Configure AWS auto-scaling to scale out the Amazon ECS cluster when the application load balancer's target group CPU utilization rises above a threshold. Option D. Configure AWS auto-scaling to scale out the Amazon ECS cluster when the CloudWatch alarm CPU utilization rises above a threshold. Correct answer. Option B. Configure AWS auto-scaling to scale out the Amazon ECS cluster when the ECS service's CPU utilization rises above a threshold. Explanation: you use the Amazon ECS first run wizard to create a cluster and a service that runs behind an elastic load balancer. Then you can configure a target tracking scaling policy that scales your service automatically based on the current application load as measured by the service's CPU utilization, from the ECS, cluster name, and service name category in CloudWatch. When the average CPU utilization of your service rises above 75%, meaning that more than 75% of the CPU that is reserved for the service is being used, a scale-out alarm triggers service auto-scaling to add another task to your service to help out with the increased load. Conversely, when the average CPU utilization of your service drops below the target utilization for a sustained period, a scale-in alarm triggers a decrease in the service's desired count to free up those cluster resources for other tasks and services. Hence, configure AWS auto-scaling to scale out the Amazon ECS cluster when the ECS service's CPU utilization rises above a threshold is the correct answer. References. Question 18. A music sharing company uses a network load balancer to direct traffic to 5 Amazon EC2 instances managed by an auto-scaling group. When a very popular song is released, the auto-scaling group scales to 100 instances and the company incurs high network and compute fees. The company wants a solution to reduce the costs without changing any of the application code. What do you recommend? Option A. Leverage AWS Storage Gateway. Option B. Move the songs to Amazon S3. Option C. Move the songs to Amazon S3 Glacier. Option D. Use an Amazon CloudFront distribution. Correct answer. Option D. Use an Amazon CloudFront distribution. Explanation: Amazon CloudFront is a fast content delivery network, CDN, service that securely delivers data, videos, applications, and APIs to customers globally with low latency, high transfer speeds, all within a developer-friendly environment. Amazon CloudFront points of presence, POPs, edge locations, make sure that popular content can be served quickly to your viewers. CloudFront also has regional edge caches that bring more of your content closer to your viewers, even when the content is not popular enough to stay at a POP, to help improve performance for that content. Regional edge caches help with all types of content, particularly content that tends to become less popular over time. Examples include user-generated content, such as video, photos, or artwork, e-commerce assets such as product photos and videos, and news and event-related content that might suddenly find new popularity. Amazon CloudFront is the right answer because we can put it in front of our auto-scaling group and leverage a global caching feature that will help us distribute the content reliably with dramatically reduced costs. The ASG won't need to scale as much. Hence, use an Amazon CloudFront distribution is the correct answer. References. Question 19. A company wants to grant access to an Amazon S3 bucket to users in its own AWS account as well as to users in another AWS account. Which of the following options can be used to meet this requirement? Option A. Use permissions boundary to grant permission to users in its account as well as to users in another account. Option B. Use a user policy to grant permission to users in its account as well as to users in another account. Option C. Use a bucket policy to grant permission to users in its account as well as to users in another account. Option D. Use either a bucket policy or a user policy to grant permission to users in its account as well as to users in another account. Correct answer. Option C. Use a bucket policy to grant permission to users in its account as well as to users in another account. Explanation: A bucket policy is a type of resource-based policy that can be used to grant permissions to the principal that is specified in the policy. Principals can be in the same account as the resource or in other accounts. For cross-account permissions to other AWS accounts or users in another account, you must use a bucket policy. Hence, use a bucket policy to grant permission to users in its account as well as to users in another account is the correct answer. References. Question 20. An IT company has a large number of clients opting to build their application programming interface, API, using Docker containers. To facilitate the hosting of these containers, the company is looking at various orchestration services available with AWS. As a solutions architect, which of the following solutions will you suggest? Select 2. Option A. Use Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service, Amazon EKS, with AWS Fargate for serverless orchestration of the containerized services. Option B. Use Amazon SageMaker for serverless orchestration of the containerized services. Option C. Use Amazon Elastic Container Service, Amazon ECS, with AWS Fargate for serverless orchestration of the containerized services. Option D. Use Amazon Elastic Container Service, Amazon ECS, with Amazon EC2 for serverless orchestration of the containerized services. Option A. Use Amazon EMR for serverless orchestration of the containerized services. Correct answer. Option A. Use Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service, Amazon EKS, with AWS Fargate for serverless orchestration of the containerized services. Option C. Use Amazon Elastic Container Service, Amazon ECS, with AWS Fargate for serverless orchestration of the containerized services. Explanation: building APIs with Docker containers has been gaining momentum over the years. For hosting and exposing these container-based APIs, they need a solution which supports HTTP requests routing, auto-scaling, and high availability. In some cases, user authorization is also needed. For this purpose, many organizations are orchestrating their containerized services with Amazon Elastic Container Service, Amazon ECS, or Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service, Amazon EKS, while hosting their containers on Amazon EC2 or AWS Fargate. Then, they can add scalability and high availability with service auto-scaling, in Amazon ECS, or horizontal pod auto-scaler, in Amazon EKS, and they expose the services through load balancers. When you use Amazon ECS as an orchestrator, with EC2 or Fargate launch type, you also have the option to expose your services with Amazon API Gateway and AWS Cloud Map instead of a load balancer. AWS Cloud Map is used for service discovery. No matter how Amazon ECS tasks scale, AWS Cloud Map service names would point to the right set of Amazon ECS tasks. Then, API Gateway HTTP APIs can be used to define API routes and point them to the corresponding AWS Cloud Map services. Hence, below options are correct. Use Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service, Amazon EKS, with AWS Fargate for serverless orchestration of the containerized services. Use Amazon Elastic Container Service, Amazon ECS, with AWS Fargate for serverless orchestration of the containerized services. References. Question 21. You are working for a software as a service, SaaS, company as a solutions architect and help design solutions for the company's customers. One of the customers is a bank and has a requirement to whitelist a public IP when the bank is accessing external services across the internet. Which architectural choice do you recommend to maintain high availability, Support scaling up to 10 instances and comply with the bank's requirements. Option A. Use a classic load balancer with an auto-scaling group. Option B. Use an application load balancer with an auto-scaling group. Option C. Use an auto-scaling group with dynamic elastic IPS attachment. Option D. Use a network load balancer with an auto-scaling group. Correct answer. Option D. Use a network load balancer with an auto-scaling group. Explanation: network load balancer is best suited for use cases involving low latency and high throughput workloads that involve scaling to millions of requests per second. Network load balancer operates at the connection level, layer 4, routing connections to targets, Amazon EC2 instances, microservices, and containers, within Amazon Virtual Private Cloud, Amazon VPC, based on IP protocol data. A network load balancer functions at the fourth layer of the Open Systems Interconnection, OSI, model. It can handle millions of requests per second. Network load balancers expose a fixed IP to the public web, therefore allowing your application to be predictably reached using this IP, while allowing you to scale your application behind the network load balancer using an ASG. Hence, use a network load balancer with an auto-scaling group is the correct answer. References. Question 22. You have developed a new REST API leveraging the Amazon API Gateway, AWS Lambda, and Amazon Aurora database services. Most of the workload on the website is read-heavy. The data rarely changes and it is acceptable to serve users outdated data for about 24 hours. Recently, the website has been experiencing high load and the costs incurred on the Aurora database have been very high. How can you easily reduce the costs while improving performance, with minimal changes? Option A. Enable Amazon API Gateway caching. Option B. Add Amazon Aurora read replicas. Option C. Enable AWS Lambda in-memory caching. Option D. Switch to using an application load balancer. Correct answer. Option A. Enable Amazon API Gateway caching. Explanation: Amazon API Gateway is a fully managed service that makes it easy for developers to create, publish, maintain, monitor, and secure APIs at any scale. APIs act as the front door for applications to access data, business logic, or functionality from your backend services. Using API Gateway, you can create RESTful APIs and WebSocket APIs that enable real-time two-way communication applications. API Gateway supports containerized and serverless workloads, as well as web applications. You can enable Amazon API caching in Amazon API Gateway to cache your endpoint's responses. With caching, you can reduce the number of calls made to your endpoint and also improve the latency of requests to your API. When you enable caching for a stage, API Gateway caches responses from your endpoint for a specified time to live, TTL, period, in seconds. Amazon API Gateway then responds to the request by looking up the endpoint response from the cache instead of requesting your endpoint. The default TTL value for API caching is 300 seconds. The maximum TTL value is 3600 seconds. TTL equals 0 means caching is disabled. Using API Gateway caching feature is the answer for the use case, as we can accept stale data for about 24 hours. Hence, enable Amazon API Gateway caching is the correct answer. References. Question 23. The engineering team at an online fashion retailer uses AWS Cloud to manage its technology infrastructure. The Amazon EC2 server fleet is behind an application load balancer and the fleet strength is managed by an auto-scaling group. Based on the historical data, the team is anticipating a huge traffic spike during the upcoming Thanksgiving sale. As an AWS solutions architect, What feature of the auto-scaling group would you leverage so that the potential surge in traffic can be preemptively addressed? Option A. Auto-scaling group step scaling policy. Option B. Auto-scaling group scheduled action. Option C. Auto-scaling group lifecycle hook. Option D. Auto-scaling group target tracking scaling policy. Correct answer. Option B. Auto-scaling group scheduled action. Explanation: the engineering team can create a scheduled action for the auto-scaling group to preemptively provision additional instances for the sale duration. This makes sure that adequate instances are ready before the sale goes live. The scheduled action tells Amazon EC2 auto-scaling to perform a scaling action at specified times. To create a scheduled scaling action, you specify the start time when the scaling action should take effect, and the new minimum, maximum, and desired sizes for the scaling action. At the specified time, Amazon EC2 auto-scaling updates the group with the values for minimum, maximum, and desired size that are specified by the scaling action. Hence, auto-scaling group scheduled action is the correct answer. References. Question 24. Your firm has implemented a multi-tiered networking structure within the VPC, with 2 public and 2 private subnets. The public subnets are used to deploy the application load balancers, while the 2 private subnets are used to deploy the application on Amazon EC2 instances. The development team wants the Amazon EC2 instances to have access to the Internet. The solution has to be fully managed by AWS and needs to work over IPv4. What will you recommend? Option A. Internet gateways deployed in your private subnet. Option B. Egress-only Internet gateways deployed in your private subnet. Option C. NAT instances deployed in your public subnet. Option D. NAT gateways deployed in your public subnet. Correct answer. Option D. NAT gateways deployed in your public subnet. Explanation: you can use a network address translation, NAT, gateway to enable instances in a private subnet to connect to the Internet or other AWS services, but prevent the Internet from initiating a connection with those instances. A NAT gateway has the following characteristics and limitations. A NAT gateway supports 5 Gbps of bandwidth and automatically scales up to 45 Gbps. You can associate exactly one elastic IP address with a NAT gateway. A NAT gateway supports the following protocols: TCP, UDP, and ICMP. You cannot associate a security group with a NAT gateway. You can use a network access control list, network ACL, to control the traffic to and from the subnet in which the NAT gateway is located. A NAT gateway can support up to 55,000 simultaneous connections to each unique destination. Therefore, you must use a NAT gateway in your public subnet in order to provide Internet access to your instances in your private subnets. You are charged for creating and using a NAT gateway in your account. NAT gateway hourly usage and data processing rates apply. Hence, NAT gateways deployed in your public subnet is the correct answer. References. Question 25. A pharmaceutical company is considering moving to AWS Cloud to accelerate the research and development process. Most of the daily workflows would be centered around running batch jobs on Amazon EC2 instances with storage on Amazon Elastic Block Store, Amazon EBS, volumes. The CTO is concerned about meeting HIPAA compliance norms for sensitive data stored on Amazon EBS. Which of the following options outline the correct capabilities of an encrypted Amazon EBS volume? Select 3. Option A. Data moving between the volume and the instance is not encrypted. Option B. Data at rest inside the volume is encrypted. Option C. Any snapshot created from the volume is not encrypted. Option D. Data moving between the volume and the instance is encrypted. Option E. Any snapshot created from the volume is encrypted. Option F. Data at rest inside the volume is not encrypted. Correct answer. Option B. Data at rest inside the volume is encrypted. Option D. Data moving between the volume and the instance is encrypted. Option E. Any snapshot created from the volume is encrypted. Explanation: Amazon Elastic Block Store, Amazon EBS, provides block-level storage volumes for use with Amazon EC2 instances. When you create an encrypted Amazon EBS volume and attach it to a supported instance type, data stored at rest on the volume, data moving between the volume and the instance, snapshots created from the volume and volumes created from those snapshots are all encrypted. It uses AWS Key Management Service, AWS KMS, Customer Master Keys, CMK, when creating encrypted volumes and snapshots. Encryption operations occur on the servers that host Amazon EC2 instances, ensuring the security of both data at rest and data in transit between an instance and its attached Amazon EBS storage. Hence, the following options are correct. Data at rest inside the volume is encrypted. Any snapshot created from the volume is encrypted. Data moving between the volume and the instance is encrypted. References. Question 26. Computer vision researchers at a university are trying to optimize the I/O-bound processes for a proprietary algorithm running on Amazon EC2 instances. The ideal storage would facilitate high-performance IOPS when doing file processing in a temporary storage space before uploading the results back into Amazon S3. As a solutions architect, which of the following AWS storage options would you recommend as the most performant as well as cost-optimal? Option A. Use Amazon EC2 instances with Instance Store as the storage option. Option B. Use Amazon EC2 instances with Amazon EBS Throughput Optimized HDD, ST1, as the storage option. Option C. Use Amazon EC2 instances with Amazon EBS Provisioned IOPS SSD, IO1, as the storage option. Option D. Use Amazon EC2 instances with Amazon EBS General Purpose SSD, GP2, as the storage option. Correct answer. Option A. Use Amazon EC2 instances with Instance Store as the storage option. Explanation: An Instance Store provides temporary block-level storage for your instance. This storage is located on disks that are physically attached to the host computer. An instance store is ideal for the temporary storage of information that changes frequently, such as buffers, caches, scratch data, and other temporary content, or for data that is replicated across a fleet of instances, such as a load-balanced pool of web servers. Some instance types use NVMe or SATA-based solid-state drives, SSD, to deliver high random I/O performance. This is a good option when you need storage with very low latency, but you don't need the data to persist when the instance terminates, or you can take advantage of fault-tolerant architectures. As Instance Store delivers high random I/O performance, it can act as a temporary storage space, and these volumes are included as part of the instance's usage cost, therefore this is the correct option. Hence, use Amazon EC2 instances with Instance Store as the storage option is the correct answer. References. Question 27. A media company wants to get out of the business of owning and maintaining its own IT infrastructure. As part of this digital transformation, the media company wants to archive about 5 petabytes of data in its on-premises data center to durable long-term storage. As a solutions architect, what is your recommendation to migrate this data in the most cost-optimal way? Option A. Transfer the on-premises data into multiple AWS Snowball Edge storage-optimized devices. Copy the AWS Snowball Edge data into Amazon S3 and create a lifecycle policy to transition the data into Amazon S3 Glacier. Option B. Set up AWS Direct Connect between the on-premises data center and AWS Cloud. Use this connection to transfer the data into Amazon S3 Glacier. Option C. Set up AWS site-to-site VPN connection between the on-premises data center and AWS Cloud. Use this connection to transfer the data into Amazon S3 Glacier. Option D. Transfer the on-premises data into multiple AWS Snowball Edge storage optimized devices. Copy the AWS Snowball Edge data into Amazon S3 Glacier. Correct answer. Option A. Transfer the on-premises data into multiple AWS Snowball Edge storage optimized devices. Copy the AWS Snowball Edge data into Amazon S3 and create a lifecycle policy to transition the data into Amazon S3 Glacier. Explanation: AWS Snowball Edge Storage Optimized is the optimal choice if you need to securely and quickly transfer dozens of terabytes to petabytes of data to AWS. It provides up to 80 TB of usable HDD storage, 40 vCPUs, 1 TB of SATA SSD storage, and up to 40 GB network connectivity to address large-scale data transfer and pre-processing use cases. The data stored on AWS Snowball Edge device can be copied into Amazon S3 bucket and later transitioned into Amazon S3 Glacier via a lifecycle policy. You can't directly copy data from AWS Snowball Edge devices into Amazon S3 Glacier. Hence, transfer the on-premises data into multiple AWS Snowball Edge storage optimized devices. Copy the AWS Snowball Edge data into Amazon S3 and create a lifecycle policy to transition the data into Amazon S3 Glacier is the correct answer. References. Question 28. A company wants to store business-critical data on Amazon Elastic Block Store, Amazon EBS, volumes which provide persistent storage independent of Amazon EC2 instances. During a test run, the development team found that on terminating an Amazon EC2 instance, the attached Amazon EBS volume was also lost, which was contrary to their assumptions. As a solutions architect, could you explain this issue? Option A. The Amazon EBS volumes were not backed up on Amazon S3 storage, resulting in the loss of volume. Option B. On termination of an Amazon EC2 instance, all the attached Amazon EBS volumes are always terminated. Option C. The Amazon EBS volume was configured as the root volume of Amazon EC2 instance. On termination of the instance, the default behavior is to also terminate the attached root volume. Option D. The Amazon EBS volumes were not backed up on Amazon EFS file system storage, resulting in the loss of volume. Correct answer. Option C. The Amazon EBS volume was configured as the root volume of Amazon EC2 instance. On termination of the instance, the default behavior is to also terminate the attached root volume. Explanation: Amazon Elastic Block Store, EBS, is an easy-to-use, high-performance block storage service designed for use with Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, EC2, for both throughput and transaction-intensive workloads at any scale. When you launch an instance, the root device volume contains the image used to boot the instance. You can choose between AMOS backed by Amazon EC2 Instance Store and AMOS backed by Amazon EBS. By default, the root volume for an AMI backed by Amazon EBS is deleted when the instance terminates. You can change the default behavior to ensure that the volume persists after the instance terminates. Non-root EBS volumes remain available even after you terminate an instance to which the volumes were attached. Therefore, this option is correct. Hence, the Amazon EBS volume was configured as the root volume of the Amazon EC2 instance. On termination of the instance, the default behavior is to also terminate the attached root volume, which is the correct answer. References. Question 29. A company has noticed several provision throughput exceptions on its Amazon DynamoDB database due to major spikes in the writes to the database. The development team wants to decouple the application layer from the database layer and dedicate a worker process to writing the data to Amazon DynamoDB. Which middleware do you recommend on using that can scale infinitely and meet these requirements in the most cost-effective way? Option A. Amazon Simple Queue Service, Amazon SQS. Option B. Amazon DynamoDB DAX. Option C. Amazon Kinesis Data Streams. Option D. Amazon Simple Notification Service, Amazon SNS. Correct answer. Option A. Amazon Simple Queue Service, Amazon SQS. Explanation: Amazon Simple Queue Service, SQS, is a fully managed message queuing service that enables you to decouple and scale microservices, distributed systems, and serverless applications. Amazon SQS offers two types of message queues. Standard queues offer maximum throughput, best effort ordering, and at least once delivery. Amazon SQS FIFO queues are designed to guarantee that messages are processed exactly once, in the exact order that they are sent. Using Amazon SQS as a middleware will help us sustain the right throughput during write peaks, and therefore, this option is the best fit for the given use case. Hence, Amazon Simple Queue Service, Amazon SQS, is the correct answer. References. Question 30. The CTO of an online home rental marketplace wants to re-engineer the caching layer of the current architecture for its relational database. The CTO wants the caching layer to have replication and archival support built into the architecture. Which of the following AWS service offers the capabilities required for the re-engineering of the caching layer? Option A. Amazon Document DB. Option B. Amazon Elasticsearch for MEMC8. Option C. Amazon Elasticsearch for Redis. Option D. Amazon DynamoDB Accelerator, DAX. Correct answer. Option C. Amazon Elasticsearch for Redis. Explanation: Amazon Elasticsearch for Redis is a blazing fast in-memory data store that provides sub-millisecond latency to power internet-scale real-time applications. Amazon Elasticsearch for Redis is a great choice for real-time transactional and analytical processing use cases such as caching, chat/messaging, gaming leaderboards, geospatial, machine learning, media streaming, queues, real-time analytics, and session store. Elasticsearch for Redis supports replication and archival snapshots right out of the box. Hence, this is the correct option. Hence, Amazon Elasticsearch for Redis is the correct answer. References. Question 31. During a review, a security team has flagged concerns over an Amazon EC2 instance querying IP addresses used for cryptocurrency mining. The Amazon EC2 instance does not host any authorized application related to cryptocurrency mining. Which AWS service can be used to protect the Amazon EC2 instances from such unauthorized behavior in the future? Option A. AWS Web Application Firewall, AWS WAF. Option B. Amazon GuardDuty. Option C. AWS Shield Advanced. Option D. AWS Firewall Manager. Correct answer. Option B. Amazon GuardDuty. Explanation: Amazon GuardDuty continuously monitors for malicious or unauthorized behavior to help protect your AWS resources, including your AWS accounts and access keys. Amazon GuardDuty identifies any unusual or unauthorized activity, like cryptocurrency mining or infrastructure deployments in a region that has never been used. Powered by threat intelligence and machine learning, GuardDuty is continuously evolving to help you protect your AWS environment. The cryptocurrency finding expands the service's ability to detect Amazon EC2 instances querying IP addresses associated with the cryptocurrency-related activity. The finding type is cryptocurrency EC2/Bitcoin tool.b, cryptocurrency EC2/Bitcoin tool.b, DNS. This finding informs you that the listed Amazon EC2 instance in your AWS environment is querying a domain name that is associated with Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency-related activity. Bitcoin is a worldwide cryptocurrency and digital payment system that can be exchanged for other currencies, products, and services. Bitcoin is a reward for Bitcoin mining and is highly sought after by threat actors. If you use the Amazon EC2 instance to mine or manage cryptocurrency, or this instance is otherwise involved in blockchain activity, this finding could represent expected activity for your environment. If this is the case in your AWS environment, AWS recommends that you set up a suppression rule for this finding. Hence, Amazon GuardDuty is the correct answer. References. Question 32. What should be implemented to ensure security when using AWS access keys? Option A. Key encryption. Option B. Password protected keys. Option C. Key decryption. Option D. Key rotation. Correct answer. Option D. Key rotation. Explanation: key rotation is used to retire older keys. The longer keys are used, the more likely they are to have been compromised. Rotate keys by generating new keys, updating applications and users with the new keys, deactivating the old keys, and monitoring to ensure you've captured all of the use cases for the keys. Hence, key rotation is the correct answer. Question 33. When using an encrypted EBS volume, what type of data is encrypted automatically? Choose the single best answer. Option A. User documents. Option B. All data stored on the volume. Option C. Database files. Option D. Configuration data. Correct answer. Option B. All data stored on the volume. Explanation: encrypted EBS volumes encrypt all data stored on the volume, regardless of data type. Hence, all data stored on the volume is the correct answer. Question 34. What is the minimum volume size of a provisioned IOPS SSD EBS volume? Option A. 1 TB. Option B. 4 GB. Option C. 12 GB. Option D. 16 TB. Correct answer. Option B. 4 GB. Explanation: the minimum provisioned IOPS volume size is 4 GB, and the maximum is 16 TB. Hence, 4 GB is the correct answer. Question 35. What can be configured to optimize EFS performance in relation to NFS mount options? Option A. Use TFTP instead of NFS. Option B. Use NFS v4.1. Option C. Use FTP instead of NFS. Option D. Use NFS v4.0. Correct answer. Option B. Use NFS v4.1. Explanation: NFS v4.1 improves performance over NFS v4.0 and should be used whenever possible. Neither FTP nor TFTP improve performance over NFS and are not available as an NFS mount configuration option. Hence, use NFS v4.1 is the correct answer. Question 36. Scenario: you are using large-scale databases and intensive processing EC2 instances. If you know the amount of resources required for 1 year or more for an AWS EC2 instance or RDS database, what can be utilized to reduce costs by 40% or more? Option A. Reserved pricing. Option B. Free tier services. Option C. None of these. Option D. On-demand pricing. Correct answer. Option A. Reserved pricing. Explanation: given the scenario, reserved pricing will have a significant impact on costs. However, you must be able to accurately predict your needs for 1 to 3 years. Savings as high as 75% can be achieved when using reserved pricing. Hence, reserved pricing is the correct answer. Question 37. You are planning VPC deployments. What is the maximum number of subnets that can be created in a VPC? Option A. 5. Option B. 10. Option C. 50. Option D. 200. Correct answer. Option D. 200. Explanation: VPCs can contain up to 200 subnets. A region can contain up to 5 VPCs by default. Hence, 200 is the correct answer. Question 38. Which one of the following languages is not supported by Elastic Beanstalk? Option A. Node.js. Option B. Perl. Option C. Python. Option D. Java. Correct answer. Option B. Perl. Explanation: Perl is not supported by Elastic Beanstalk. Java, .NET, Node.js, PHP, Ruby, Python, and Go are supported. Hence, Perl is the correct answer. Question 39. When considering NACLs and security groups, what is evaluated first when a packet is inbound to an EC2 instance? Option A. Security group, then NACL. Option B. Neither, they are processed at the same time. Option C. NACL then security group. Option D. Neither, they cannot be used together. Correct answer. Option C. NACL then security group. Explanation: NACLs and security groups can be used together in the flow of traffic into an EC2 instance. Because the NACLs are associated with the subnet, they are processed first, and then security groups, which are associated with the instance network interface, are processed. Hence, NACL then security group is the correct answer. Question 40. What can you monitor to see if a T2 database instance should be upgraded to an R3 instance? Option A. CPU allowance. Option B. Memory credits. Option C. CPU credits. Option D. Memory allowance. Correct answer. Option C. CPU credits. Explanation: by monitoring CPU credits, you can determine if you're reaching a low level of credits. When a low level of credits is reached, you risk running out of credits and, in such an instance, performance will degrade significantly. Hence, CPU credits is the correct answer. Question 41. An organization want to share regular updates about their charitable work using static web pages. The pages are expected to generate a large amount of views from around the world. The files are stored in an Amazon S3 bucket. A solutions architect has been asked to design an efficient and effective solution. Which action should the solutions architect take to accomplish this? Option A. Generate pre-signed URLs for the files. Option B. Use the geoproximity feature of Amazon Route 53. Option C. Use Amazon CloudFront with the S3 bucket as its origin. Option D. Use cross-region replication to all regions. Correct answer. Option C. Use Amazon CloudFront with the S3 bucket as its origin. Explanation: Amazon CloudFront can be used to cache the files in edge locations around the world, and this will improve the performance of the web pages. To serve a static website hosted on Amazon S3, you can deploy a CloudFront distribution using one of these configurations using a REST API endpoint as the origin, with access restricted by an Origin Access Identity, OAI, using a website endpoint as the origin with anonymous, public, access allowed using a website endpoint as the origin, with access restricted by a referrer header. Hence, use Amazon CloudFront with the S3 bucket as its origin is the correct answer. References. Question 42. A company hosts a multiplayer game on AWS. The application uses Amazon EC2 instances in a single availability zone and users connect over layer 4. Solutions architect has been tasked with making the architecture highly available and also more cost-effective. How can the solutions architect best meet these requirements? Select 2. Option A. Increase the number of instances and use smaller EC2 instance types. Option B. Configure an auto-scaling group to add or remove instances in multiple availability zones automatically. Option C. Configure a network load balancer in front of the EC2 instances. Option D. Configure an application load balancer in front of the EC2 instances. Option E. Configure an auto-scaling group to add or remove instances in the availability zone automatically. Correct answer. Option B. Configure an auto-scaling group to add or remove instances in multiple availability zones automatically. Option C. Configure a network load balancer in front of the EC2 instances. Explanation: the solutions architect must enable high availability for the architecture and ensure it is cost-effective. To enable high availability, an Amazon EC2 auto-scaling group should be created to add and remove instances across multiple availability zones. In order to distribute the traffic to the instances, the architecture should use a network load balancer which operates at layer 4. This architecture will also be cost-effective as the auto-scaling group will ensure the right number of instances are running based on demand. Hence, the following options are correct. Configure a network load balancer in front of the EC2 instances. Configure an auto-scaling group to add or remove instances in multiple availability zones automatically. References. Question 43. A company runs a web application that serves weather updates. The application runs on a fleet of Amazon EC2 instances in a multi-AZ auto-scaling group behind an application load balancer, ALB. The instances store data in an Amazon Aurora database. A solutions architect needs to make the application more resilient to sporadic increases in request rates. Which architecture should the solutions architect implement? Select 2. Option A. Add an AWS Global Accelerator endpoint. Option B. Add Amazon Aurora replicas. Option C. Add an Amazon CloudFront distribution in front of the ALB. Option D. Add an AWS WAF in front of the ALB. Option E. Add an AWS Transit Gateway to the availability zones. Correct answer. Option B. Add Amazon Aurora replicas. Option C. Add an Amazon CloudFront distribution in front of the ALB. Explanation: the architecture is already highly resilient, but it may be subject to performance degradation if there are sudden increases in request rates. To resolve this situation, Amazon Aurora Red replicas can be used to serve read traffic, which offloads requests from the main database. On the front end, an Amazon CloudFront distribution can be placed in front of the ALB, and this will cache content for better performance and also offload requests from the backend. Hence, the following options are correct. Add Amazon Aurora replicas. Add an Amazon CloudFront distribution in front of the ALB. References. Question 44. There are two applications in a company, a sender application that sends messages containing payloads, and a processing application that receives messages containing payloads. The company wants to implement an AWS service to handle messages between these two different applications. The sender application sends on average 1,000 messages each hour, and the messages, depending on the type, sometimes take up to 2 days to be processed. If the messages fail to process, they must be retained so that they do not impact the processing of any remaining messages. Which solution meets these requirements and is the most operationally efficient? Option A. Set up a Redis database on Amazon EC2. Configure the instance to be used by both applications. The messages should be stored, processed, and deleted, respectively. Option B. Receive the messages from the sender application using an Amazon Kinesis data stream. Utilize the Kinesis client library, KCL, to integrate the processing application. Option C. Provide an Amazon Simple Queue service, Amazon SQS, queue for the sender and processor applications. Set up a dead letter queue to collect failed messages. Option D. Subscribe the processing application to an Amazon Simple Notification Service, Amazon SNS, topic to receive notifications. Write to the SNS topic using the sender application. Correct answer. Option C. Provide an Amazon Simple Queue service, Amazon SQS, queue for the sender and processor applications. Set up a dead letter queue to collect failed messages. Explanation: Amazon Simple Queue Service, SQS, is a fully managed message queuing service that enables you to decouple and scale microservices, distributed systems, and serverless applications. SQS eliminates the complexity and overhead associated with managing and operating message-oriented middleware and empowers developers to focus on differentiating work. Hence, provide an Amazon Simple Queue service, Amazon SQS, queue for the sender and processor applications. Set up a dead letter queue to collect failed messages is the correct answer. References. Question 45. A web application runs in public and private subnets. The application architecture consists of a web tier and database tier running on Amazon EC2 instances. Both tiers run in a single availability zone, AZ. Which combination of steps should a solutions architect take to provide high availability for this architecture? Select 2. Option A. Create new public and private subnets in a new AZ. Create a database using Amazon EC2 in one AZ. Option B. Create new public and private subnets in the same AZ for high availability. Option C. Create an Amazon EC2 auto-scaling group and application load balancer, ALB, spanning multiple AZs. Option D. Create new public and private subnets in the same VPC, each in a new AZ. Migrate the database to an Amazon RDS multi-AZ deployment. Option E. Add the existing web application instances to an auto-scaling group behind an application load balancer, ALB. Correct answer. Option C. Create an Amazon EC2 auto-scaling group and application load balancer, ALB, spanning multiple AZs. Option D. Create new public and private subnets in the same VPC, each in a new AZ. Migrate the database to an Amazon RDS multi-AZ deployment. Explanation: to add high availability to this architecture, both the web tier and database tier require changes. For the web tier, An auto-scaling group across multiple AZs with an ALB will ensure there are always instances running and traffic is being distributed to them. The database tier should be migrated from the EC2 instances to Amazon RDS to take advantage of a managed database with multi-AZ functionality. This will ensure that if there is an issue preventing access to the primary database, a secondary database can take over. Hence, the following options are correct. Create an Amazon EC2 auto-scaling group and application load balancer, ALB, spanning multiple AZs. Create new public and private subnets in the same VPC, each in a new AZ. Migrate the database to an Amazon RDS multi-AZ deployment. References. Question 46. Data from 45 TB of data is used for reporting by a company. The company wants to move this data from on-premises into the AWS cloud. A custom application in the company's data center runs a weekly data transformation job, and the company plans to pause the application until the data transfer is complete and needs to begin the transfer process as soon as possible. The data center bandwidth is saturated, and a solutions architect has been tasked to transfer the data and must configure the transformation job to continue to run in the AWS cloud. Which solution will meet these requirements with the least operational overhead? Option A. Order an AWS Snowball Edge storage optimized device that includes Amazon EC2 compute. Transfer the data to the device. Launch a new EC2 instance to run the transformation application. Option B. The data will be moved using an AWS Snowcone device. The transformation application should be deployed to the device. Option C. The data can be moved using AWS Data Sync. Using AWS Glue, create a custom transformation job. Option D. Order an AWS Snowball Edge storage optimized device. Copy the data to the device. And create a custom transformation job by using AWS Glue. Correct answer. Option D. Order an AWS Snowball Edge storage optimized device. Copy the data to the device. And create a custom transformation job by using AWS Glue. Explanation: as the network is saturated, the solutions architect will have to use a physical solution, i.e. a member of the Snow family, to achieve this requirement quickly. As the data transformation job needs to be completed in the cloud, using AWS Glue will suit this requirement also. AWS Glue is a managed data transformation service. Hence, order an AWS Snowball Edge storage optimized device. Copy the data to the device. And create a custom transformation job by using AWS Glue is the correct answer. References. Question 47. IAM permissions related access denied errors and unauthorized errors need to be analyzed and troubleshooted by a company. AWS CloudTrail has been enabled at the company. Which solution will meet these requirements with the least effort? Option A. Write custom scripts to query CloudTrail logs using AWS Glue. Option B. Create a custom script and execute it against CloudTrail logs to find errors using AWS Patch. Option C. Search CloudTrail logs with Amazon QuickSight. Create a dashboard to identify the errors. Option D. Search CloudTrail logs with Amazon Redshift. Create a dashboard to identify the errors. Correct answer. Option C. Search CloudTrail logs with Amazon QuickSight. Create a dashboard to identify the errors. Explanation: CloudTrail logs are stored natively within an S3 bucket, which can then be easily integrated with Amazon QuickSight. Amazon QuickSight is a data visualization tool which will show any IAM permissions related access denied errors and unauthorized errors. Hence, search CloudTrail logs with Amazon QuickSight. Create a dashboard to identify the errors is the correct answer. References. Question 48. An application uses Amazon EC2 instances and an Amazon RDS MySQL database. The database is not currently encrypted. A solutions architect needs to apply encryption to the database for all new and existing data. How should this be accomplished? Option A. Enable encryption for the database using the API. Take a full snapshot of the database. Delete old snapshots. Option B. Create an Amazon Elastic cluster and encrypt data using the cache nodes. Option C. Create an RDS read replica with encryption at rest enabled. Promote the read replica to master and switch the application over to the new master. Delete the old RDS instance. Option D. Take a snapshot of the RDS instance. Create an encrypted copy of the snapshot. Restore the RDS instance from the encrypted snapshot. Correct answer. Option D. Take a snapshot of the RDS instance. Create an encrypted copy of the snapshot. Restore the RDS instance from the encrypted snapshot. Explanation: there are some limitations for encrypted Amazon RDS DB instances. You can't modify an existing unencrypted Amazon RDS DB instance to make the instance encrypted, and you can't create an encrypted read replica from an unencrypted instance. However, you can use the Amazon RDS snapshot feature to encrypt an unencrypted snapshot that's taken from the RDS database that you want to encrypt. Restore a new RDS DB instance from the encrypted snapshot to deploy a new encrypted DB instance. Finally, switch your connections to the new DB instance. Correct, hence, take a snapshot of the RDS instance. Create an encrypted copy of the snapshot. Restore the RDS instance from the encrypted snapshot is the correct answer. References. Question 49. A website runs on Amazon EC2 instances behind an application load balancer, ALB. The website has a mix of dynamic and static content. Customers around the world are reporting performance issues with the website. Which set of actions will improve website performance for users worldwide? Option A. Create an Amazon CloudFront distribution and configure the ALB as an origin. Then update the Amazon Route 53 record to point to the CloudFront distribution. Option B. Launch new EC2 instances hosting the same web application in different regions closer to the users. Use an AWS transit gateway to connect customers to the closest region. Option C. Migrate the website to an Amazon S3 bucket in the regions closest to the users. Then create an Amazon Route 53 geolocation record to point to the S3 buckets. Option D. Create a latency-based Amazon Route 53 record for the ALB. Then launch new EC2 instances with larger instance sizes and register the instances with the ALB. Correct answer. Option A. Create an Amazon CloudFront distribution and configure the ALB as an origin. Then update the Amazon Route 53 record to point to the CloudFront distribution. Explanation: Amazon CloudFront is a content delivery network, CDN, that improves website performance by caching content at edge locations around the world. It can serve both dynamic and static content. This is the best solution for improving the performance of the website. Hence, create an Amazon CloudFront distribution and configure the ALB as an origin. Then update the Amazon Route 53 record to point to the CloudFront distribution is the correct answer. References. Question 50. An application runs on Amazon EC2 instances in a private subnet. The EC2 instances process data that is stored in an Amazon S3 bucket. The data is highly confidential and a private and secure connection is required between the EC2 instances and the S3 bucket. Which solution meets these requirements? Option A. Configure encryption for the S3 bucket using an AWS KMS key. Option B. Configure a custom SSL/TLS certificate on the S3 bucket. Option C. Set up S3 bucket policies to allow access from a VPC endpoint. Option D. Set up an IAM policy to grant read-write access to the S3 bucket. Correct answer. Option C. Set up S3 bucket policies to allow access from a VPC endpoint. Explanation: A gateway VPC endpoint can be used to access an Amazon S3 bucket using private IP addresses. To further secure the solution, an S3 bucket policy can be created that restricts access to the VPC endpoint so connections cannot be made to the bucket from other sources. Hence, set up S3 bucket policies to allow access from a VPC endpoint is the correct answer. References. Question 51. An architect needs to find a way to automatically and repeatably create many member accounts within an AWS organization. The accounts also need to be moved into an OU and have VPCs and subnets created. What is the best way to achieve this? Option A. Use the AWS organization's API. Option B. Use the AWS CLI. Option C. Use CloudFormation with scripts. Option D. Use the AWS Management Console. Correct answer. Option C. Use CloudFormation with scripts. Explanation: the best solution is to use a combination of scripts and AWS CloudFormation. You will also leverage the AWS organization's API. This solution can provide all of the requirements. Hence, use CloudFormation with scripts is the correct answer. References. Question 52. A company is planning to migrate a large quantity of important data to Amazon S3. The data will be uploaded to a versioning-enabled bucket in the US West 1 region. The solution needs to include replication of the data to another region for disaster recovery purposes. How should a solutions architect configure the replication? Option A. Create an additional S3 bucket with versioning in another region and configure cross-region replication. Option B. Create an additional S3 bucket with versioning in another region and configure cross-origin resource sharing, CORS. Option C. Create an additional S3 bucket in another region and configure cross-region replication. Option D. Create an additional S3 bucket in another region and configure cross-origin resource sharing, CORS. Correct answer. Option A. Create an additional S3 bucket with versioning in another region and configure cross-region replication. Explanation: replication enables automatic, asynchronous copying of objects across Amazon S3 buckets. Buckets that are configured for object replication can be owned by the same AWS account or by different accounts. You can copy objects between different AWS regions or within the same region. Both source and destination buckets must have versioning enabled. Hence, creating an additional S3 bucket with versioning in another region and configure cross-region replication is the correct answer. References. Question 53. A social media company has a Microsoft.NET application that currently runs on an on-premises Windows server. The application uses an Oracle Database Standard Edition server for its database layer. The company is planning to migrate this application to AWS and wants to minimize development changes while moving the application, due to limited staff resources. The AWS application environment should, however, not compromise on being highly available. Which two actions should the company take to meet these requirements? Select 2. Option A. Migrate the server to Amazon EC2 using an Amazon Linux Amazon Machine Image, AMI. Option B. Refactor the application into a serverless solution with multiple Lambda functions running .NET Core. Option C. Redeploy the application in Elastic Beanstalk with the .NET platform provisioned in a multi-AZ configuration. Option D. Migrate from Oracle to Oracle on Amazon RDS using the AWS Database Migration Service, AWS DMS. Option E. Use the AWS Database Migration Service, AWS DMS, to migrate the database from the Oracle database to an Amazon DynamoDB table in a multi-AZ configuration. Correct answer. Option C. Redeploy the application in Elastic Beanstalk with the .NET platform provisioned in a multi-AZ configuration. Option D. Migrate from Oracle to Oracle on Amazon RDS using the AWS Database Migration Service, AWS DMS. Explanation: AWS Elastic Beanstalk in a multi-AZ configuration is an ideal platform for running the application. This is a PaaS service, and the developers only need to add the code. The deployment also provides the required high availability, as a multi-AZ deployment will include auto-scaling and load balancing. For the database tier, AWS DMS can be used to migrate the database to an Amazon RDS managed database service using the Oracle DB engine. This requires a minimum of changes and provides high availability. Hence, the following options are correct. Redeploy the application in Elastic Beanstalk with the .NET platform provisioned in a multi-AZ configuration. Migrate from Oracle to Oracle on Amazon RDS using the AWS Database Migration Service, AWS DMS. References. Question 54. A large online retail company manages and runs an online e-commerce web application on AWS. This application serves hundreds of thousands of concurrent users during their peak operating hours, and as a result the company needs a highly scalable, near real-time solution to share the order details with several other internal applications for order processing. Some additional processing to remove sensitive data also needs to occur before being stored in a document database for low latency retrieval. What should a solutions architect recommend to meet these requirements? Option A. Store the batched transactions data in Amazon S3 as files. Use AWS Lambda to process every file and remove sensitive data before updating the files in Amazon S3. The Lambda function then stores the data in Amazon DynamoDB. Other applications can consume transaction files stored in Amazon S3. Option B. Store the transaction data in Amazon DynamoDB. Set up a rule in DynamoDB to remove sensitive data from every transaction upon writing. Use DynamoDB streams to share the transaction data with other applications. Option C. Stream the transactions data into Amazon Kinesis data streams. Use AWS Lambda integration to remove sensitive data from every transaction and then store the transactions data in Amazon DynamoDB. Other applications can consume the transactions data off the Kinesis data stream. Option D. Stream the transactions data into Amazon Kinesis Data Firehose to store data in Amazon DynamoDB and Amazon S3. Use AWS Lambda integration with Kinesis Data Firehose to remove sensitive data. Other applications can consume the data stored in Amazon S3. Correct answer. Option C. Stream the transactions data into Amazon Kinesis data streams. Use AWS Lambda integration to remove sensitive data from every transaction and then store the transactions data in Amazon DynamoDB. Other applications can consume the transactions data off the Kinesis data stream. Explanation: Amazon Kinesis Data Streams is a serverless streaming data service that makes it easy to capture, process, and store data streams at any scale. When connected to Amazon DynamoDB as an output, the customer is able to scale to hundreds of thousands of concurrent users during their peak operating hours. KDS stores records for 24 hours by default, so other applications can read the data. Hence, stream the transaction data into Amazon Kinesis data streams. Use AWS Lambda integration to remove sensitive data from every transaction and then store the transaction's data in Amazon DynamoDB. Other applications can consume the transaction's data off the Kinesis data stream is the correct answer. References. Question 55. A financial institution with many departments wants to migrate to the AWS cloud from their data center. Each department should have their own established AWS accounts with pre-configured, limited access to authorized services, based on each team's needs, by the principle of least privilege. What actions should be taken to ensure compliance with these security requirements? Option A. Use AWS CloudFormation to create new member accounts and networking and use IAM roles to allow access to approved AWS services. Option B. Configure AWS organizations with SCPs and create new member accounts. Use AWS CloudFormation templates to configure the member account networking. Option C. Deploy a landing zone within AWS organizations. Allow department administrators to use the landing zone to create new member accounts and networking. Grant the department's AWS power user permissions on the created accounts. Option D. Deploy a landing zone within AWS Control Tower. Allow department administrators to use the landing zone to create new member accounts and networking. Grant the department's AWS power user permissions on the created accounts. Correct answer. Option D. Deploy a landing zone within AWS Control Tower. Allow department administrators to use the landing zone to create new member accounts and networking. Grant the department's AWS power user permissions on the created accounts. Explanation: AWS Control Tower automates the setup of a new landing zone using best practices blueprints for identity, federated access, and account structure. The Account Factory automates provisioning of new accounts in your organization. As a configurable account template, it helps you standardize the provisioning of new accounts with pre-approved account configurations. You can configure your Account Factory with pre-approved network configuration and region selections. Hence, deploy a landing zone within AWS Control Tower. Allow department administrators to use the landing zone to create new member accounts and networking. Grant the department's AWS power user permissions on the created accounts is the correct answer. References. Question 56. A solutions architect is migrating a distributed application from their on-premises environment into AWS. This application consists of an Apache Cassandra NoSQL database, with a containerized SUSE Linux compute layer with an additional storage layer made up of multiple Microsoft SQL Server databases. Once in the cloud, the company wants to have as little operational overhead as possible, with no schema conversion during the migration, and the company wants to host the architecture in a highly available and durable way. Which of the following groups of services will provide the solutions architect with the best solution? Option A. Run the NoSQL database on DynamoDB, and the compute layer on Amazon ECS on EC2. Use Amazon RDS for Microsoft SQL Server to host the second storage layer. Option B. Run the NoSQL database on Amazon Keyspaces, and the compute layer on Amazon ECS on Fargate. Use Amazon RDS for Microsoft SQL Server to host the second storage layer. Option C. Run the NoSQL database on DynamoDB, and the compute layer on Amazon ECS on Fargate. Use Amazon RDS for Microsoft SQL Server to host the second storage layer. Option D. Run the NoSQL database on Amazon Keyspaces, and the compute layer on Amazon ECS on Fargate. Use Amazon Aurora to host the second storage layer. Correct answer. Option B. Run the NoSQL database on Amazon Keyspaces, and the compute layer on Amazon ECS on Fargate. Use Amazon RDS for Microsoft SQL Server to host the second storage layer. Explanation: Amazon Keyspaces, for Apache Cassandra, is a scalable, highly available, and managed Apache Cassandra compatible database service. This, combined with a containerist, serverless compute layer on Amazon ECS for Fargate and an RDS for Microsoft SQL Server database layer, is a fully managed version of what currently exists on premises. Hence, run the NoSQL database on Amazon Keyspaces, and the compute layer on Amazon ECS on Fargate. Use Amazon RDS for Microsoft SQL Server to host the second storage layer is the correct answer. References. Question 57. An application that runs a computational fluid dynamics workload uses a tightly coupled HPC architecture that uses the MPI protocol and runs across many nodes. A service-managed deployment is required to minimize operational overhead. Which deployment option is most suitable for provisioning and managing the resources required for this use case? Option A. Use Amazon EC2 auto-scaling to deploy instances in multiple subnets. Option B. Use AWS batch to deploy a multi-node parallel job. Option C. Use AWS CloudFormation to deploy a cluster placement group on EC2. Option D. Use AWS Elastic Beanstalk to provision and manage the EC2 instances. Correct answer. Option B. Use AWS batch to deploy a multi-node parallel job. Explanation: AWS batch multi-node parallel jobs enable you to run single jobs that span multiple Amazon EC2 instances. With AWS batch multi-node parallel jobs, you can run large-scale, tightly coupled, high-performance computing applications and distributed GPU model training without the need to launch, configure, and manage Amazon EC2 resources directly. An AWS batch multi-node parallel job is compatible with any framework that supports IP-based, internode communication, such as Apache MXNet, TensorFlow, Caffe2, or Message Passing Interface, MPI. This is the most efficient approach to deploy the resources required and supports the application requirements most effectively. Hence, use AWS batch to deploy a multi-node parallel job is the correct answer. References. Question 58. A solutions architect is designing a migration strategy for a company moving to the AWS cloud. The company uses a shared Microsoft file system that uses distributed file system namespaces, DFSN. What will be the most suitable migration strategy for the file system? Option A. Use the AWS Server Migration Service to migrate to an Amazon S3 bucket. Option B. Use AWS DataSync to migrate to Amazon FSx for Windows File Server. Option C. Use the AWS Server Migration Service to migrate to Amazon FSx for Lustre. Option D. Use AWS DataSync to migrate to an Amazon EFS file system. Correct answer. Option B. Use AWS DataSync to migrate to Amazon FSx for Windows File Server. Explanation: the destination file system should be Amazon FSx for Windows File Server. This supports DFSN and is the most suitable storage solution for Microsoft file systems. AWS DataSync supports migrating to Amazon FSx and automates the process. Hence, use AWS DataSync to migrate to Amazon FSx for Windows File Server is the correct answer. References. Question 59. An application that is being installed on an Amazon EC2 instance requires a persistent block storage volume. The data must be encrypted at rest and regular volume level backups must be automated. Which solution options should be used? Option A. Use an encrypted Amazon EBS volume and use Data Lifecycle Manager to automate snapshots. Option B. Use server-side encryption on an Amazon S3 bucket and use cross-region replication to backup on a schedule. Option C. Use an encrypted Amazon EFS file system and use an Amazon CloudWatch events rule to start a backup copy of data using AWS Lambda. Option D. Use an encrypted Amazon EC2 instance store and copy the data to another EC2 instance using a cron job and a batch script. Correct answer. Option A. Use an encrypted Amazon EBS volume and use Data Lifecycle Manager to automate snapshots. Explanation for block storage. The solution's architect should use either Amazon EBS or EC2 instance store. However, the instance store is non-persistent, so EBS must be used. With EBS, you can encrypt your volume and automate volume-level backups using snapshots that are run by Data Lifecycle Manager. Hence, use an encrypted Amazon EBS volume and use Data Lifecycle Manager to automate snapshots is the correct answer. References. Question 60. A company runs a streaming media service and the content is stored on Amazon S3. The media catalog server pulls updated content from S3 and can issue over 1 million read operations per second for short periods. Latency must be kept under 5 milliseconds for these updates. Which solution will provide the best performance for the media catalog updates? Option A. Implement an instance store volume on the media catalog server. Option B. Implement Amazon CloudFront and cache the content at edge locations. Option C. Update the application code to use an Amazon DynamoDB accelerator cluster. Option D. Update the application code to use an Amazon Elastic for Redis cluster. Correct answer. Option D. Update the application code to use an Amazon Elastic for Redis cluster. Explanation. Some applications, such as media catalog updates, require high-frequency reads and consistent throughput. For such applications, customers often complement S3 with an in-memory cache, such as Amazon Elastic for Redis, to reduce the S3 retrieval cost and to improve performance. Elastic for Redis is a fully managed, in-memory data store that provides sub-millisecond latency performance with high throughput. Elastic for Redis complements S3 in the following ways. Redis stores data in memory, so it provides sub-millisecond latency and supports incredibly high requests per second. It supports key/value-based operations that map well to S3 operations, for example, get/set equals get/put, making it easy to write code for both S3 and Elastic. It can be implemented as an application-side cache. This allows you to use S3 as your persistent store and benefit from its durability, availability, and low cost. Your applications decide what objects to cache, when to cache them, and how to cache them. In this example, the media catalog is pulling updates from S3, so the performance between these components is what needs to be improved. Therefore, using Elastic to cache the content will dramatically increase the performance. Hence, update the application code to use an Amazon Elastic for Redis cluster is the correct answer. References. Question 61. A company runs an application on premises that stores a large quantity of semi-structured data using key-value pairs. The application code will be migrated to AWS Lambda and a highly scalable solution is required for storing the data. Which data store will be the best fit for these requirements? Option A. Amazon DynamoDB. Option B. Amazon EBS. Option C. Amazon EFS. Option D. Amazon RDS MySQL. Correct answer. Option A. Amazon DynamoDB. Explanation. Amazon DynamoDB is a NoSQL database that stores data using key-value pairs. It is ideal for storing large amounts of semi-structured data and is also highly scalable. This is the best solution for storing this data based on the requirements in the scenario. Hence, Amazon DynamoDB is the correct answer. References. Question 62. A web application runs on a series of Amazon EC2 instances behind an application load balancer, ALB. A solutions architect is updating the configuration with a health check and needs to select the protocol to use. What options are available? Choose 2. Option A. ICMP. Option B. SSL. Option C. HTTP. Option D. HTTPS. Option E. TCP. Correct answer. Option C. HTTP. Option D. HTTPS. Explanation: an application load balancer periodically sends requests to its registered targets to test their status. These tests are called health checks. Each load balancer node routes requests only to the healthy targets in the enabled availability zones for the load balancer. Each load balancer node checks the health of each target, using the health check settings for the target groups with which the target is registered. After your target is registered, it must pass one health check to be considered healthy. After each health check is completed, the load balancer node closes the connection that was established for the health check. If a target group contains only unhealthy registered targets, the load balancer node's route requests across its unhealthy targets. For an ALB, the possible protocols are HTTP and HTTPS. The default is the HTTP protocol. Hence, the following options are correct. HTTP, HTTPS. References. Question 63. A company is deploying a new two-tier web application that uses EC2 web servers and a DynamoDB database backend. An internet-facing ALB distributes connections between the web servers. The solutions architect has created a security group for the web servers and needs to create a security group for the ALB. What rules should be added? Choose 2. Option A. Add an outbound rule that allows all TCP, and specify the destination as the Internet gateway. Option B. Add an outbound rule that allows HTTP/HTTPS, and specify the destination as VPC/CIDR. Option C. Add an inbound rule that allows HTTP/HTTPS, and specify the source as 0.0.0.0/0. Option D. Add an inbound rule that allows HTTP/HTTPS, and specify the source as 0.0.0.0/32. Option E. Add an outbound rule that allows HTTP/HTTPS, and specify the destination as the web server security group. Correct answer. Option C. Add an inbound rule that allows HTTP/HTTPS, and specify the source as 0.0.0.0/0. Option E. Add an outbound rule that allows HTTP/HTTPS, and specify the destination as the web server security group. Explanation: an inbound rule should be created for the relevant protocols, HTTP/HTTPS, and the source should be set to any address, 0.0.0.0/0. The outbound rule should forward the relevant protocols, HTTP/HTTPS, and the destination should be set to the web server security group. Note that on the web server security group, you'd want to add an inbound rule allowing HTTP/HTTPS from the ALB security group. Hence, the following options are correct. Add an outbound rule that allows HTTP/HTTPS, and specify the destination as the web server security group. Add an inbound rule that allows HTTP/HTTPS, and specify the source as 0.0.0.0/0. References. Question 64. One of the departments in a company has been generating a large amount of data on Amazon S3 and costs are increasing. Data older than 90 days is rarely accessed but must be retained for several years. If this data does need to be accessed, at least 24 hours notice is provided. How can a solutions architect optimize the costs associated with storage of this data whilst ensuring it is accessible if required? Option A. Implement archival software that automatically moves the data to tape. Option B. Use S3 lifecycle policies to move data to the standard_IA storage class. Option C. Select the older data and manually migrate it to Glacier. Option D. Use S3 lifecycle policies to move data to Glacier after 90 days. Correct answer. Option D. Use S3 lifecycle policies to move data to Glacier after 90 days. Explanation: to manage your objects so that they are stored cost-effectively throughout their life cycle, configure their life cycle. A life cycle configuration is a set of rules that define actions that Amazon S3 applies to a group of objects. Transition actions define when objects transition to another storage class. For example, you might choose to transition objects to the standard_IA storage class 30 days after you created them, or archive objects to the Glacier storage class 1 year after creating them. Glacier retrieval time: standard retrieval is 3 to 5 hours, which is well within the requirements here. You can use expedited retrievals to access data in 1 to 5 minutes. You can use bulk retrievals to access up to petabytes of data in approximately 5 to 12 hours. Hence, use S3 lifecycle policies to move data to Glacier after 90 days is the correct answer. References. Question 65. An on-premises server runs a MySQL database and will be migrated to the AWS cloud. The company requires a managed solution that supports high availability and automatic failover in the event of the outage of an availability zone, AZ. Which solution is the best fit for these requirements? Option A. Use the AWS Database Migration Service, DMS, to directly migrate the database to an Amazon RDS MySQL multi-AZ deployment. Option B. Use the AWS Database Migration Service, DMS, to directly migrate the database to Amazon RDS MySQL. Use the Schema Conversion Tool, SCT, to enable conversion from MySQL to Amazon RDS. Option C. Create a snapshot of the MySQL database server and use AWS DataSync to migrate the data Amazon S3. Launch a new Amazon RDS MySQL multi-AZ deployment from the snapshot. Option D. Use the AWS Database Migration Service, DMS, to directly migrate the database to an Amazon EC2 MySQL multi-AZ deployment. Correct answer. Option A. Use the AWS Database Migration Service, DMS, to directly migrate the database to an Amazon RDS MySQL multi-AZ deployment. Explanation: the AWS DMS service can be used to directly migrate the MySQL database to an Amazon RDS multi-AZ deployment. The entire process can be online and is managed for you. There is no need to perform schema translation between MySQL and RDS, assuming you choose the MySQL RDS engine. Hence, use the AWS Database Migration Service, DMS, to directly migrate the database to an Amazon RDS MySQL multi-AZ deployment is the correct answer. References. Thanks for watching. If this practice test helped you, make sure to subscribe to Code with Ankit Sahu on YouTube for more AWS practice tests and tech tutorials. You can also connect with me on Facebook and follow my articles on Medium for additional AWS and cloud learning content. All reference document links are available in my Medium post, with the link provided in the description. Stay tuned, keep practicing, and keep building with AWS.